Hi, and welcome to part two of the future of sales. Let me begin by thanking everybody who sent me comments, DMs, emails with their feedback and thoughts after the first video of the series. Really do appreciate it, and I've tried to make sure that everything that you asked and all the suggestions you made, I've incorporated into this next video. I should probably reintroduce myself, by the way, because I'm not going to make the assumption that I am the most important thing in your life. I'm Stephen Long. I'm the founder of The Sales Edge. I've trained more than 100,000 salespeople in every niche and industry you can probably think of. And I have spent 30 years studying the psychology, the mindset, and the behavior of the best salespeople in the world. I've become an expert in NLP, high performance coaching, clinical psychology, cognitive psychology, behavioral psychology, organizational psychology, lots of ologies, and everything I could find that would help me work out what the best salespeople do and how they do it. Because the what, honestly, isn't nearly as important as the how. I know that the best footballers in the world kick the ball. I know they run. What I don't know in detail is how they kick the ball or how they run to where, when, and how they know to do that particular thing. So it's not so much about the what. That's useful. That's interesting. It's almost always about the how and the when and the why. Part one was all about mindset, beliefs, attitude, the underpinnings that make anything and everything else work. Because having fantastic techniques, but believing that there's no point because it's all going to go wrong anyway, isn't really going to take you anywhere. Doesn't matter how good the techniques may be or how well you think you're doing them. So beliefs, attitude, the whole package of mindset. In this video, what we're going to get into is the nuts and bolts of the framework that makes authority selling deliver results. What is it about the structure of the authority selling framework that enables people to achieve significantly more sales with a lot less hassle, in a lot less time, and a lot more fun? Because that's what we're all after. More sales, more deals, better clients, more enjoyably. Surely that's what we're all in this for. At its heart, authority selling is about completely rewiring the way we think about and do business development. No matter what your industry, whether you're selling products or you're a recruitment consultant or you're a SaaS business, shift the focus so that instead of focusing on your results and what you want to achieve, which fundamentally means addressing your problems, let's shift the mindset and put all of our focus and all of our techniques into turning around and focusing on the prospect and their problems and their desires, because ultimately their results become our results. If we help them solve their problems, they will help us solve all of ours. So the first shift we have to make is about shifting the focus and making it about them. Selling isn't something that we do to somebody. At the very least, it's something we do with somebody. The basic underpinning, the core foundation of authority selling is that we are not there to sell. We are there to help people buy. And we're going to help them buy because buying from us will solve their problems and deliver what they want. It will deliver the outcomes, the benefits, the goals that they haven't found a way of achieving yet. It's all about them. You see, the reality is that almost nobody enjoys being sold to. We love to buy things, own things, have things, do things, use things. But being sold to, most of us just don't like it. I don't. I suspect you probably don't, because being sold to is risky. Because every time we choose a new supplier or every time we do something different, there's a risk built into it. It might go wrong. We might look stupid. We might get ripped off. It might not work. So there's always a risk associated with making a new buying choice. So when somebody's being sold to and knows they're being sold to, they resist. And the more you push them, the more they push back. The more you pull them, the more they resist. So authority selling is not designed to overcome resistance, because that's stupid. That would just make people more resistant. Authority selling is designed to give someone nothing to resist. Because if I'm trying to push you to do what I want, you'll probably resist. But if I'm giving you the chance to take an intelligent decision and do what you already want to, what's there to resist? If I'm not pushing, you won't push back. If I'm not selling, you won't be resistant. See, here's the unspoken secret that we never really think about in sales. Most resistance from prospects and buyers is created by salespeople because of the way we act and the way we do stuff. So if you stop doing that stuff, the resistance doesn't crop up in the first place. That sound good? See, here's the thing. What most of us want is to make more money from better customers and have our existing customers come back to us long term and be extremely excited and happy to do it. We want to make as much money as possible with as little aggravation as possible, whilst having as much fun as humanly possible. That's what I want to help you get. I want you to go into every situation, and instead of being on a call or being in a meeting going, oh, what do I do now? What do I do now? I want you to sit there thinking, oh, what's the best way to play this? Which route shall I go? Because once you go from what I do to, ooh, which is the best way to play it, everything opens up. The world changes dramatically once you have the mindset and the skills to make that shift. That is what authority selling is about. Because here's the thing, I mentioned that this has been tested. And the fact that it's been tested with so many people in so many industries over so long means that I can and do guarantee the results. If my training doesn't improve your results, have your money back. Or you can work with us until you do get the results that you're looking for. Everything I'm talking about has been tested to within an inch of its life, or possibly to within an inch of somebody else's. If you work the process will work. If you do what we ask of you during the program, you'll get the results that you're asking of us. Does that sound fair? So, to more detail, authority selling is made up of 3 core pillars. There's the internal game, the external game, and the social game. And I'm going to bet that none of them mean what you expect them to. So I'm going to break them each down into a little bit of detail so that you can understand how they work and how they work together. Because each of the pillars is useful and beneficial in itself. If you change your mindset dramatically, but carry on doing the same old stuff, will your results improve? Yeah, sure. If you change your techniques, but you're still stuck in the old mindset and the old rut of the way you think about things, will your results improve? Yeah, probably. A few new tricks is always good. But will it be transformational? Probably not. If you combine all the elements in a sensible programmed structure, the results really are transformational. So let's look at first things first, which is the internal game. The internal game is made up of a few different pieces. The first of those pieces is your beliefs, attitude, and motivation. BAM, as we mentioned in the first video. Going into a situation with the right belief structure, believing that you're there to help somebody and believing it's going to work. That's kind of the foundation of pretty much everything, because without that, everything else is just hitting and hoping. So your belief, attitude, motivation is the first core plank that we have to lay down, because then we can start building successfully. Now, built into that, there are also some other elements which link into your internal game, but they're not quite the same as beliefs, attitude, and motivation. The first of them is confidence. Confidence is not just about walking in feeling like you're unstoppable, walking into the room like a superhero. That's okay. Superficial confidence, yeah, what the heck. I'm as big a fan of state change, I'm as big a fan of motivational speaking as the next person, as long as the next person is Tony Robbins. I'm a big fan of being motivated and having your state right. But confidence isn't just the external stuff. It's also the internal stuff. It's the stuff that you wake up at 3 in the morning thinking about. When you wake up at 3 in the morning, are you thinking about how great tomorrow is going to be? Or are you slightly dreading it? Are you confident that you can deal with anything that comes up, no matter who they are or what they throw at you? You know that you can deal with it. Or are you just confident that you can get out alive? Which is where a lot of people, frankly, are most days. So it's not just about acting confidence, it's about being confident. It's about being congruent, where your words and your gestures and your genuine internal wiring all fit together and all match. I'm not suggesting that you have to feel like you're unstoppable about anything, anywhere, at any time, because if you can, that's great. But honestly, a lot of it's going to be self-delusion, and I don't work in that sort of field. But when you genuinely believe that you can do stuff because you genuinely can, that's where thoroughgoing, down to the marrow confidence comes from. And that's what we talk about extensively and intensively during the first few sessions of the program. We get into how you build confidence, how you build internal confidence, how you project that confidence externally. So you don't just feel it, you do it. People can see it, they can smell it, they can taste your confidence. That probably came off wrong, but you know what I mean. You don't just project confidence, you feel confidence. You know, you believe confidence. Which takes us into the other really big, significant piece of the internal game, which is overcoming your limiting fears. I have no fears, Stephen. I am unstoppable. I'm a sales machine. I can do anything, anywhere, with anyone. Yeah, of course you can, dear. Of course you can. Here's the reality. The most common fear in every survey, every time it's done, the most common fear people have is not dying in pain. The most common fear that people have is the fear of public speaking, which is just bizarre. If you think about the average funeral, most people would rather be the one in the box than the one about to deliver the eulogy. That's just perverse. But I understand it. I know when I started speaking in public, I had to overcome the butterflies, or at least I had to understand that what the butterflies meant and get them flying in formation. Because we all have a driving fear, which is the fear of rejection. I have no fear of rejection, Stephen. I'm fine. Great. But some people have a fear of public speaking. They have a fear of cold calling. They have a fear of walking into a networking event and dealing with strangers. They have a fear of all sorts of social fears, all sorts of anxieties that come from not wanting to look stupid in front of other people. The number of people who won't go on a camera to talk on social media, who will then say, oh yeah, but I have no fear of rejection. I just don't like going on camera. But why? Well, because, but why? Well, yeah, but why? But why? I don't want to look stupid. But why? I don't want people to think I'm stupid. But why? Fear of rejection. Fear of rejection is one of those fundamental, evolutionary, hardwired aspects of being a human being. So let's accept it, deal with it, move past it. As you may have gathered, I no longer have any fear of public speaking, despite my first event where I had to stand in front of a group of, it was 15 people. And the night before, I spent on the toilet with my head in the sink. It was horrible. Now, put me in front of 10,000 people, it feels like my front room. That's home. Put me on camera, I'll stay there all day. And I'll be happy doing it because I learned how to overcome my fear of rejection. I don't enjoy looking stupid. Who the hell does? But I'm able to function and get on and do what I want to do when I want to do it and feel confident about it. So those are some of the pieces of the inner game. It's giving yourself the beliefs, the confidence, and overcoming those roadblocks that will hold you back. Because once you can do that, now you're able to start taking advantage of the external game, which is where you're using the techniques and strategies of influence to start to shape the way other people think, what they believe, and how they feel. Because when you can shape what people believe, think, and feel, the world is yours. Because the ability to shape somebody's focus is the foundation of everything else. You can't change somebody's views about what they're currently doing. You can't change their views about their current products, their current systems, their current suppliers, their current pricing, until they become open to that conversation. Otherwise, you're just a salesperson. You're just making a pitch and praying. And we don't do that. Let me take you through a quick little experiment. Try this. Wherever you are, as long as you're not driving, and if you are driving, what you're watching this for, but as long as you're not driving, have a look around you and just notice anything and everything you can that's blue. Blue, 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 blue. And I bet as you have a look around, there's probably an awful lot more blue in your environment than you realized. There's blue all over the place. And if you're like most people, particularly salespeople, you're probably finding shades of gray and calling them blue because you want to feel successful. Now, bear with me a second. Just try this. Having looked around for all the blue you can in your current environment, just close your eyes for a second and just remember, with your eyes closed, everything you can that's brown. Oh, Stephen, what the hell are you doing? Have a look now. Open your eyes up, have a look around, and I guarantee there's more brown in your environment than you originally remembered. Again, you're probably calling beige brown. You're probably calling cream or even magnolia brown because I'm a successful, goal-oriented individual. Yeah. But if you look for blue, you'll find blue. If you look for brown, you'll find brown everywhere. Great big steaming buckets of it covered in flies. I used to say that what you focus on is what you get. But that's not really true because, I spent a lot of time focusing on Monica Bellucci and it hasn't happened yet, but one can but dream. But here's the reality. What you focus on is not what you get, but what you focus on is your reality. If you see your room as completely blue, then somebody talking about brown is not going to make any sense to you. But if you see your room as completely brown and you don't like brown, you want more blue, maybe you'll be open to a change. And that is the power of shaping somebody's focus. Shaping not the facts, but their perception of the facts. Let me give you an example. Maybe you've got some flaking paint in your house, or there's a chipped tile somewhere, or there's a squeaky gate or a squeaky door. There's something, okay? And when you first notice it, you're like, oh, I should do something about that. But you haven't. And you've left it and you just kind of got used to it now. That ring any bells? That's called being human. We acclimatize, we get used to the situation that we're in. As an extreme example of that, the worst thing I ever did domestically was to repaint the hall in one of my houses. Because having repainted the hall, every single room that came off that hall suddenly looked horrible, because the hall was spectacular and every other room was a bit grubby and a bit not really there. That's what human beings do. That's what human beings are like. So I was working with a commercial insurance broker not too long ago, and they had a client. We sat in a joint meeting, and the account executive salesperson did an awesome job of exploring what was going on. And the claims were being handled badly and slowly. About half the claims were being rejected. They'd got issues where products weren't insured properly, and the pricing wasn't all that. But they'd been putting up with it. They'd been with this same insurance broker for 3 years, putting up with, actually gradually getting used to how bad the service was. They just kind of accepted that that's the way things were. It's kind of a sales version of the Stockholm syndrome. It's like they've been taken hostage and they come to love their hostage taker. It's a bizarre situation, but that explains why you sat there in a meeting with somebody and you're thinking, well, the service is awful, the product's awful, the pricing is rubbish. Why won't they change? And you make your pitch and you put your proposal in and they go, oh yeah, that sounds lovely. But they don't do anything. They stay where they are, because where they are hasn't killed them yet. Where they are hasn't cost them their job or their business. So, I've just sort of got used to it. That's how human beings are. So if we can shape what they focus on, if we can get them to move away from the blue and start looking at the brown, and once they start noticing the brown, they can start noticing the flies. And once they're noticing the flies, they can maybe pick up that odor that comes with it. Then they'll be ready and excited and encouraged to take us through the shift, through the switch. Make sense? Because that is what we're trying to do. That's the starting point of all the influence techniques that we have, is shaping somebody's focus, because then everything else is possible. Now, shaping somebody's focus, that's a sentence. But doing that takes a constellation of different techniques, from the way you express ideas, to the questions you ask, to the way you preface your questions and follow up on your questions. There's a whole range of skills that allow you to do that. But shaping somebody's focus is the primary part of the external game. It's the primary part of the external strategy. Once you've shifted how somebody is focusing, once you've shifted what they focus on, that will start to shift what they feel. And feelings, I know I'm English, we don't talk about feelings, but your feelings are what drive your actions. If you feel comfortable where you are, you'll stay there. If you feel deeply uncomfortable and in pain where you are, you'll change. Now, the style in which we do it is the difference between being a salesperson and being a trusted advisor. And a trusted advisor, the trusted authority, is where we want to be. Because once they see us as a trusted authority, they start asking us for advice. And they start following that advice, which is why ghosting and endless follow-ups isn't a major issue to somebody who's using authority selling, to somebody who's selling with authority, because you're setting up the whole situation completely differently. So you get completely different conversations in completely different ways about completely different things to the old way of doing stuff. Questions are a core part of all influence, because anything I say is an opinion. obviously a really good and important opinion, but it's still an opinion. But anything you say is a fact. So me telling you what I think is pretty much non-influential. So using questions in new and different ways is how you shape what somebody's focusing on and how they feel about it. Now, the old-fashioned stuff about closed questions, open questions, it's not that it's wrong. It's fine. But, you know, it's like banging two rocks together in the hope of making a spark and fire. You know, bang, 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 bang. It will probably eventually work, maybe. But it's long, it's slow, it's unpleasant, and I wouldn't like to rely on it in an emergency. Using questions in the right way is like having a blowtorch. It's faster, it's cleaner, it's far more efficient because questions don't work the way most people think they work, because there's a thing that comes before a question that we call a setup. There's the question itself, which is what most people spend all their time thinking about. They've got this list of questions, they've got this checklist of questions they're going to go through, because if I get all this information, they're bound to want to work with me. Yeah, how's that working so far? So we've got the setup, we've got the question. Questions are the simplest and easiest part of the entire process. I spend about 15 minutes out of the entire program talking about just questions. We've then got the response itself, the answer, and then we've got the follow-up. And the follow-up combined with the setup is what turns everything into a conversation. So instead of question, answer, question, answer, question, answer, which isn't, technically speaking, that's not a conversation. That's an interrogation, and it's not a hell of a lot of fun for anybody. But a conversation where everything just kind of flows and one topic moves into the next, moves into the next, moves into the next. You know, the kind of thing you have with your friends where you sit there and you start talking about one thing, and then 15 minutes later you talk about something completely different, and you don't really know how you got there, but it was a lot of fun. A really good, influential conversation feels like that, because the person on the other side doesn't realize that you're in control of it, that you have moved from what do I do next to, oh, what's the best way of moving this forwards? What do I need them to think about next? How do I make them feel that more in a conversation that doesn't feel like you're doing anything to somebody? It feels like you're having a conversation with somebody, because, you know, you are. It helps them identify not just the problems, but not just even the real problems, but the core of the real problems that they're having. It enables them to identify what they really want. What desires have they got? What goals have they got that they genuinely want, but they've not found a way of getting yet? And it does that in a seamless, elegant way. There's a number of techniques and strategies and skills that fit into that framework, but that process of taking somebody from I'm fine through to, well, yeah, I suppose there's a couple of things that could be better, through to, yeah, okay, that is a bit sucky, through to, okay, well, how do I fix it? That is the sales process that most people don't go through. But that's what a sale should look like. That's what it should feel like. It should feel integrated. It should feel flowing. Imagine this for a second. Imagine that you and I are having a conversation and I help you work out what you really, genuinely, in your heart of hearts, want from your career and your business. Not what you tell your boss in a review, not what you tell your investors, what you really, genuinely want in here, you personally. And if I help you realize how important that is to you, and how achieving that and having it and doing it being able to do, be, and have all that, what it would mean for you. And if I then helped you realize what it is that's really holding you back, what it is that's stopping you, because it's probably not some external factor. It's probably not the leads. It's probably not marketing. It's probably not your age, your gender, your race, your geography. Probably not your pricing. It's probably something deeper, something much more fundamental, and something much more likely to be in here or in here than out there in the world. And if I helped you genuinely understand what the gap is between where you are and why, and where you want to be and why, and if I helped you build a path between those two, would I really need 365 ways to get you on board? Would I really need some clever dick objection handling techniques? Would I even get major objections? Or would I just get some questions about practical issues? Would I just get some genuine questions about pricing? Because not all questions are objections. Some questions are just, questions. So if I could help you do that, and if I could help you build that bridge, I probably wouldn't have to do anything major to get you on board. And that is what your sales should feel like to your prospect. Because if I understand what you really want, and if I understand what's really holding you back, and you appreciate that I understand those things, if I have built genuine rapport, if you and I feel like we're completely on the same wavelength with each other, you know what I mean? If we're like that, if you're like me and I'm like you, then I become a trusted advisor. And I don't have to do a heck of a lot. I just have to give you some advice. I just have to tell you the best way forward. And you'll probably trust that I'm giving you good advice, and you'll probably act on it. You see what I'm saying? Because that is the way people work. And because of the way people work, that's the way authority selling works. And it'll work for you. But let me just explain the social game, because the social game is entirely different to what people think it is. The social game is not about how many likes you get. It's not about the number of comments you get. It's not about your engagement or any of that stuff. For most people, in most sales situations, the social game is positioning. How do you want people to perceive you before they interact directly with you? Let me give you an example. I very rarely talk about what I'm doing because, frankly, why should you care? But in this context, it's relevant. If you look on my social media, my TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, I don't do Snapchat, but if you look on my 5 major channels, you will not find anything about learning theory. You won't find anything about how to engage people through training. You won't find anything about what I do as a coach. You won't find any of that there. What you will find is me talking about people in your situation with your sorts of problems and different ways of helping them. So I talk about sales technique, I talk about appointment making, I talk about how to do recruitment for my recruitment clients, I talk about how to sell commercial insurance, I talk about my prospects, you. I talk about you and your situation. I talk about you and your problems, you and what makes you happy, you and what will make you excited. I try and give practical tips that will help you do your job better with your customers. I'm not talking about training. I'm not talking about being a coach, because frankly, that's not what you are in it for. When I send you a connection request on LinkedIn, you may have already had one. If If I send you a connection request on LinkedIn and you look at the first thing you do, by the way, my connection requests, I don't put a message in there. I just send an empty connection request. And I pull about between 70 and 75% acceptance rate, which is, that'll do. So I'm pulling in 135, 140 new connections on LinkedIn every single week, plus all the followers that are coming in. But you don't have a message on there. Your message isn't personalized. All the LinkedIn gurus tell me to personalize the messaging. Yeah, that's because they missed the first part. If you go and make a connection, if I make a connection request with you, the first thing you do is go, oh, who's that? And you look on my profile. And if everything on my profile is about you, your situation, your industry, your problems, your desires, the chances are in that 3 seconds, you'll go, oh, yeah, okay, connect. And on a very simple level, that's positioning. That's pre-framing our conversation. Because now, anytime you see my posts, even before you look at them, even before you read them or watch them, you kind of know in the back of your head that it's probably related to something that's relevant to you. So all these recruitment consultants who talk about recruitment, stop it. Your customers don't care. Talk about how to hire better. Talk about how to get the job you're looking for. Talk about what your industry cares about. If you're a recruiter recruiting for commercial insurance companies, talk about commercial insurance. Do not talk about recruitment. If you're selling plumbing supplies to plumbers merchants, don't talk about plumbing supplies. Talk about how to promote plumbing supplies. Talk about how to get more plumbers into your store. Talk about how to keep your plumbers happier. Talk about how to get your plumbers to buy more product. Talk about being a plumber's merchant, not a manufacturer of plumbing supplies. I could take that same example and do it for literally any industry. I'll do it for yours, I'll do it for theirs, I'll do it for everybody's, because your prospects don't care about your industry. They don't care about your job. They don't care about your products. They care about theirs and them. Does that make sense? So just on a practical level, do that tomorrow. In fact, no, do it today. Change your profile, change what you're posting. If that means dumping anything that's in your schedule list, do it. Make that change and you will instantly start to change your positioning dramatically. It will begin the process. Once the social game is about making the rest of the process work better, instead of being a popularity contest like we were still at school somewhere. It's not about whether the mean girls like you. It's about whether the next person you want to talk to is familiar with you and thinks that you're credible and that you might have some authority and that you might know what the heck you're talking about. Because if they have that thought process before the conversation, everything else gets easier. Probably the most common question I would get asked by anybody who's thinking about working with me is, okay, yeah, but we've been through sales training, we've done objection handling and questioning. How is this different to all the other stuff? Well, I'm hoping if you've got to this point that you've already got a very good idea of how this is different. Because firstly, everything is about them, not about us. When it comes to technique, I've made no assumptions that things work. So I have taken nothing for granted. Just because people have been talking about objection handling for 70 years, I've not assumed that objections are inevitable. I don't assume that we have to handle objections. Because when I was doing my research, the people I was researching didn't really get objections, so they didn't need to handle them. So I worked out how they avoided getting objections. Why would you need objection handling if you don't get objections? So the objection handling part of authority selling, I think, is just over 15 minutes. Don't get me wrong, it's really good, but I'd rather spend time on not getting objections rather than dealing with them on the odd occasion that they happen. I'll equip you for them, because sometimes they will happen. Sometimes they're a negotiating position. Sometimes there'll be some kind of resistance that genuinely needs dealing with, probably because you've created it earlier in the process. But they do happen. So I've got some tools in there to help with it. But fundamentally, everything that I'm talking about is based on what works, not what's easy to teach, not what sounds familiar to people. Because the dark secret that people in my profession don't talk about is that teaching influence skills is hard. Teaching people how to apply very high level psychology in a simple, structured, repeatable way, that's difficult. Teaching people 365 bullshit ways to close the sale, that's a piece of cake. So a lot of sales stuff is taught because it's easy to teach, not because it works, not because it's state of the art, not because it's what people need to know, but just because it's what people can teach. You see, this sounds a bit grandiose, but I am genuinely on a mission. I want to change the way the industry works because I want the perception of salespeople to change completely. I want salespeople to be trusted advisors. I want us to feel like genuine business professionals who are out there doing the best possible job for people and getting exceptionally well paid for it. Because that's exactly how I would describe the best salespeople I've ever met. They're not flogging stuff and hoping to pick up a deal here or there. They are genuine, trusted advisors helping people solve their problems and getting enormously well compensated for it. And they go home proud and happy at the end of the day, and they wake up excited and confident at the start of the day. Wouldn't that be great? So, am I getting into the pricing of the program? Yeah, I will. We'll get there. But I assure you, it's much more affordable than you're probably thinking. So, from this video, what I'm hoping is that you're already thinking, okay, this might be interesting. There might be something here. I'm not expecting you to be convinced at this point at all. But if it's interesting, look below and you'll find a link to join the waiting list. Now, the waiting list is limited. There's only a maximum of 40 people can be on it. If you sign up for the waiting list, you get access to the program before anybody else does, and you get some exclusive bonuses that will not be available to anybody who hasn't joined the waiting list. For example, if you do join the program from the waiting list, you get 4 one-to-one coaching calls with me. I don't know if that's an incentive or not, but that's there for you. So if this is going to be interesting for you, click the link below, sign up for the waiting list, and give yourself the opportunity to sign up before anybody else and have access to the exclusive bonuses. The next video in the series, part 3 of the future of sales, is much more drilling down into techniques and tactics. But I wanted to make sure that you understood the structures and the beliefs and all the underpinnings of everything before we get down into the nuts and bolts, as it were. So please, if this has been useful, if it's been interesting, firstly, sign up for the waiting list, give yourself some options, put a comment down below, send me a DM, drop me an email, let me know what you think, let me know whatever questions you've got, and I'll see you in part 3 in a few days. Take care. Bye for now.